Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out to our program this evening on mental health. Let's face it, let's heal it. There's a lot of reasons why our organization, Towards a Better Path, decided to choose this topic. We are a nonprofit organization, and we do a lot in the community in regards to helping women who are homeless, poverty-stricken, of that nature. And we provide clothing, we provide hygiene packets and things like that. But we're a comprehensive organization because we don't just want to pass out those things to them and neglect the other parts of areas where we need help in. So on occasions, we do education, information, and restoration to helping our community. So one of the topics that we chose to really focus in on was mental health in our community. I just want to thank the Southeast Seventh Adventist Church for allowing us to host this event. As you know, that there is COVID still going on, and a lot of places that I reached out to hold the event, we weren't allowed to go in because of safety reasons, which we understand. But when I contacted the Pastor Stan Hood of this church with open arms, he said that we could, and we are following the COVID practices. So I would like to thank the Southeast Church. I also like to thank the media team for allowing you all at home to be able to watch this. A lot of times, because of technology, you can go back and you can watch different programming. You can go back and watch different content. You can stop it, you can pause it. You can really take it all in, as opposed to if you were here live and that was it. So technology plays a really important part in what we're doing, because we definitely want to get this message out. We want to be a resource. We want to be an advocate. And most of all, we want to bring healing of mental health to our community so that we can begin to talk about it. So the order program that we have Dr. Pamela Eldriver, who has been really, really instrumental in working with a trauma-informed care program that's going on throughout the city of Cleveland. And our hope is to piggyback on that program so that we can bring more information to you all in regards to mental health. So this was a learning process for me as well, because as my speakers informed me, it's such a broad topic. There's so much to it. And there's no way that we can talk about every aspect of it in one night, in one forum. So our goal is to continue to bring you as much information as we can so that it can help you or can help someone that you might know. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Eldriver to come and do her presentation, after which Pamela Bell will come and Donna Randolph. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you for inviting us to speak on this very great topic and this timely topic. We need to be talking about health in our communities. As you can imagine, health in the African American community has been exacerbated by a lot of different things that have gone on, including the COVID-19 problem and the George Floyd killing and some other stressful events. But we're going to talk about the traumatized brain today. So trauma can happen to a lot of people. When someone comes to you and the first thing you ask them, especially a kid that may be acting up in school, or even your wife or your husband or one of your friends, you want to say, "What's wrong with you?" Instead of saying, "What's wrong with you?" you should ask them, "What happened to you?" I have a clicker. So this slide about what happened to you, it's a lot of things. You see all the things on this slide. It's because a lot of things have happened to each and every one of us. The things that are happening, things happen in your life, in your family. Things happen in the community. A lot of things happen to you. And when we talk about children, children can be traumatized. Kaiser did do a study, and they came up with adverse problems that children have. They call them ACEs. And they found out that many people had an ACE. At least 60% of people have one ACE, and the rest of them, 1 out of 9 people, have 2 or more ACEs. And what are ACEs? They are adverse events that may have happened to you before the age of 12. Things like, have you ever been physically neglected? Have you ever been abused? Have you ever had a parent die, or someone that was divorced or been abandoned? There's a lot of things that go into ACEs. And most of us have had an ACE. I counted mine up, it was 3. I thought it would be more, but it is 3. Next slide. So we talk about stress. What is stress? A lot of people say, well, I'm under stress. What is stress? People say, I'm too blessed to be stressed. Well, all of us have had some stress, and stress is not always bad. Sometimes stress is positive. It makes you do things that you need to do. So on this slide, it talks about positive stress, which is mild, moderate, and short-lived stress. And it's a response for healthy development. You know, you have a little stress, you got to go to school, you have to take a test, but you get through it. Or even as a baby, you're hungry. Mom brings you your milk, either in the bottle or through the breast. And so that stress is short-lived because you have a relationship with your mom, and your mom is there, and she gave you what you needed. Tolerable stress is a little bit more severe. The response is limited in duration, and it allows for recovery. For instance, you can get through a divorce. You can also get through the death of a parent. It takes a while. We know about grief, but we can get through it. It's more severe, but the response is limited in duration. And if we have people in our lives that can help us get over it, then it's a tolerable stress. Toxic stress is extreme, frequent, extended, unpredictable. You can't do anything about it. You don't know when it's going to occur. You don't have anybody that's going to help you get out of this stress. Toxic stress is when you feel like whatever is going on with you is going to kill you. You're not going to get out of it alive. Your life is threatened. That's the way you feel. And there's no protective factors. There's no friend. There's no relatives. There's no one there to help you. That's like a child getting repeatedly abused, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And your mother is doing this. Your father is doing this, the person that's supposed to protect you, so you don't feel like you have any way out. That's toxic stress. It's sort of like being in a pool, drowning, and you drown. That's toxic stress. So positive stress causes some physiological changes, brief increases in heart rate, mild elevations in stress hormones, but then they leave and you come back to homeostasis. Tolerable stress is serious, but it's a temporary stress response. So you also go back to homeostasis when you have supportive relationships. Toxic stress is prolonged activation of the stress response systems in the absence of protective relationships. The stress response system just continues and does not stop. Trauma equals an event, an experience, and an effect. The event is dangerous or extreme with the threat of harm. Then you experience what we call fight, flight, or freeze. Plus, you're helpless to escape. And it overwhelms your brain, your body, your entire being. And the effect is disintegration and dysregulation, which we'll talk more about. Fight. When you're fighting, you have a sense of irritability. You're ready to engage in arguments with people, family members, or members of the public. You hoard items. You have excessive competitiveness, angry, arguing, and all those things. That's the fight part of this. Flight, you're hiding out. You refuse to engage in activities. You have a reluctance or refusal to return to activities once restrictions have been lifted. You have passive communication styles, people pleasing to avoid conflict or confrontation. Freeze, numbing behaviors. You use drugs to kind of check out. Increased time spent on social media. You get addicted to social media, so you've checked out that way. Excessive time watching television, gambling, or disordered eating. So we have these responses: fight, flight, or freeze. And we already talked about fight, flight, or freeze. In freeze, you have dissociation, you feel numb. This is where depression comes in, shame, you feel trapped, helpless, and you shut down. The fight or flight, this is panic, worry, anxiety, fear, irritation, anger, frustration. If you have social engagement, those things can be tempered, and you have connection with people, you feel safe, you're grounded, you have compassion, and you stay in the presence with people. But toxic stress causes the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome. Now, this can affect people throughout their lifetime. Children who are repeatedly and chronically experiencing adversity can suffer from toxic stress. Toxic stress happens when the brain endures repeated, not just once, repeated stress or danger. Then it releases these hormones, fight or flight hormones, and they take control. Now the next slide shows that these things start in utero, when the mother is pregnant, even before she's pregnant. If she feels stressed or something's going on with her, this goes to the baby, and her body spills out cortisol, and it goes through the placenta to the baby, affecting that baby in utero before it is born. At 6 to 12 months of age. Now people think, okay, it's just a baby, so if me and my husband are fighting, they don't know. That baby doesn't know. Yes, that baby experiences stress. They know by the tone of your voice, by certain looks, and how you feel when you interact with that baby or don't interact with that baby. At 6 to 12 months of age, this is when the HP axis is forming. We'll talk more about that, but it's the primitive brain, the little brain is forming. And they're not yet forming the circuits for the frontal cortex, the big brain, but they're starting. And if you keep repeatedly abusing a child or neglecting a child, then the wiring in the brain is defective. And this starts at 0 to 12 months. Then at 15 months, they start language. At 24 months, they have their IQ. It's a lot of different things that go on. And I just put this picture up to let you know it starts before the birth of the baby, and it continues. So we talked about typical development. So if you have a typical development in a baby, then what happens is they will develop, the survival mode is small. Then they have regulation, they have social and emotional growth and good cognition. But if you have trauma in the baby, then the survival mode is huge, because all they're trying to do is to survive. Remember, this trauma, they feel like they're going to die, that something is getting ready to kill them, so they're trying to survive. Next slide. So we have a picture of a brain inside of a person. And we have labeled some of these parts. We have the amygdala, which is responsible for fight, flight, or freeze. Then you have the hippocampus, short-term memory, cause and effect, cortisol. Then you have the frontal cortex. Okay, prefrontal cortex, that's the part of your brain that's right behind your forehead. Now we're going to do a little bit of an exercise here. Put up your dominant hand and make it into a fist. Okay? So this part of your brain is where the amygdala is and the hippocampus is. That's where you have the amygdala, which is concerned about emotions. Fear is one of the most intense emotions, and the hippocampus is concerned about short-term memory. Now, over top of that, you have the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is a part of your brain where you think, you have wisdom, you make good decisions, you control emotions, so that if someone makes you angry, you don't just yell at them or curse them out, because your prefrontal cortex will say, oh no, don't do that. So it's a social emotional center. But somebody that's undergoing stress and trauma, the brain secretes a lot of norepinephrine, adrenaline, dopamine, and it goes through the frontal cortex, but it's dangerous to the frontal cortex. It dysregulates, it disintegrates part of the frontal cortex, so this part, which causes you to think, reason, have good executive function, make good decisions, starts to fall off. It weakens. It doesn't go all the way off, but it weakens. And now you're left with this part of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus. Now, the amygdala is interesting. The amygdala wants to tell the frontal cortex what to do. It also wants to make the hippocampus do what it wants to do. So the amygdala is the fear center of the brain. It's the fear network. Fear cascades outward from the amygdala when you are stressed. Now, when we were in the jungles or in the woods, if a tiger was coming, no, we needed that. We needed, if a tiger's coming, you need to run. So unconsciously, the amygdala secretes these hormones that make you run away from the tiger. Well, you need that. They also secrete hormones that go to the HPA axis, and it tells certain other things to stop the parasympathetic symptom system is to tell your stomach not to work anymore because you don't need digestion. It takes blood to your muscles because you need your muscles to run to get away from that animal. It tells your heartbeat to speed up because you're going to need that. It tells you to take deeper breaths. So all animals have that. We call that the reptilian brain, or on this slide is the little brain. That's the part of the brain that helps us feel. The little brain tells us when we are in danger. Our little brain helps keep us safe. So once you get away from the tiger, you don't see the tiger anymore, right? So now you're not scared. But if you like Elijah was, who thought Jezebel was getting ready to kill him, and he got running and running and running and running and running, even though she wasn't after him anymore, he still had fear. So if you keep thinking that the tiger is after you, then you're going to keep secreting these hormones. And these hormones will keep you in a perpetual state of hyperarousal, looking around. Something's going to come get me in the next minute. Scared, fearful. That leads to anxiety, stress, OCD, PT, post-traumatic stress syndrome, hyperarousal, depression, catatonia, just sitting around. So this is what the brain does. Now the amygdala, I have a lot of slides, and you can go to the next one. The amygdala hijacks this entire system. So the amygdala and the hippocampus are supposed to work together to create memories. But they create memories in fragmented ways, in little intense packets. For instance, they just use sensory packets. So for instance, you were in a car accident. What do you remember about the car accident? That was a traumatic thing. Do you remember the screech of the cars? Do you remember the smell of gasoline? Do you remember seeing smoke? So those are the sensory things that the amygdala and the hippocampus come together, and you have packets of intense memories. So who has ever been triggered by something? A smell. Say, for instance, a young lady has been molested. She's at school. Her teacher has on Old Spice. She smells it. She doesn't know why. She decided to run out of that room and go home. She doesn't know why. She decided to act up. It's done unconsciously. It was a trigger that her rapist, when she was a little girl, wore Old Spice. But her body remembered this. The hippocampus and the amygdala had those memories in store. So people have triggers. Anybody ever have any flashbacks or deja vu or nightmares? That's what the brain does. The brain has put into compartments some things that have happened to us in intense packets, and it only uses sight, sound, smell. Okay? But anyway, now the amygdala tries to hijack this whole process. So if you're running from the tiger and everything goes away, you're okay. So the amygdala hijacks this whole process and makes you feel that you're in a perpetual dangerous situation, that there is a threat here, a threat there, when there is no threat. So you're in fear. Now remember the acronym, false evidence appearing real. Now I know what it means. False evidence appearing real. There is no threat. There is no threat. but your body is feeling that it is in danger. And this continues. You have dysregulation, which causes all manner of problems as we go on in life. But that's what the brain does. And people that have toxic stress, you can see that certain parts of their brain are underdeveloped. Their brains are smaller, their amygdala gets bigger, and the hippocampus gets smaller. So there's a lot of brain changes that can explain some of the problems that we are having. And right now, there's a lot more. I can say this, that as I was preparing to speak about the brain, it was so much we know and so much we don't know. And all I can say is that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Who can understand how God made our brain? And could you go to the last slide? I do want to show something real quick because, even though we're not our aces, even though these things happen to us, just before that, when we say, what happened to me? I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. There are ways that we can foster resilience in ourselves and in children that have had traumatic experiences. And now we're going to introduce the next speaker. Our next speaker is Pamela Bell.
Good afternoon. How's everybody today? Okay, so I'm Pamela Bell. I'm a licensed social worker, and I'm not as scientific as the great doctor was just before me. However, I've been working in the mental health field for a little bit, about 27 years, and started out right after college working at a neighborhood mental health facility, Meredith Taylor. I was given a caseload of 65 duly diagnosed violent men. Duly diagnosed means a mental health disorder and a substance abuse dependence disorder. So that was a big task, and I ended up really liking mental health. And so I've worked in that field in various positions and with varying demographics since that time. So I really want to talk about mental health. And so there's about 200 diagnosable classified forms of mental illness. The top 10 common mental illnesses in adults is anxiety disorder. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I knew I was going to flip up, but is major depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, eating disorders, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and substance abuse. So I'm going to start off with major depression. Major depression, I think we all have had what I would call situational depression, times of depression in our lives, which could stem from being diagnosed with a major medical illness, losing a loved one, losing a job, losing your home. When you lose your job, you lose a lot of things. So that means then you start being depressed about, well, how am I gonna pay my rent? How am I gonna pay my utilities? How am I gonna have food on the table? And then if you lose your house, and then you go into a deeper depression. But some of those things, situational depression can be fixed more quickly than others. So a lot of times, major depression may be generational, meaning it's hereditary, and in your family line, somebody has suffered or dealt with depression. As African Americans, we have gone through so much trauma in our lives, but we always seem to overcome things. And so that's why a lot of people look at us and say, and when I say a lot of people, I say mainly ourselves, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You'll be okay. You don't have time to be depressed. You got to take care of your family. So you just keep pressing things down. You keep pressing things down. And until you don't have any more room or space to keep pressing things down. So how do you know when it's time to act on the fact that you're depressed? A lot of people think that, you can still manage your life and you can go on, you get up, you go to work, you shower, you eat, you take care of business, but you're still depressed. When you can no longer do those things, you may decide you're just gonna stay in the bed every day, all day, 24/7. You barely get up, just enough to go to the bathroom and get back in the bed. Your hygiene goes, you don't care whether or not you showered, you brushed your teeth, none of those things matter, and you just want to sleep. Sometimes with other people, it's the opposite. You're up, you're down, you overeat. Some people don't eat at all, and so you see a weight loss or weight gain. So I'm just giving some generalized things because we're gonna, from what Tracy says, this is just the first of the beginning of a series of things. And so the next thing was anxiety. So we all have anxiety, but some people have anxiety to the point where it's paralyzing and they can't function. Today when I was getting ready to come here, I had anxiety because I kept changing my clothes. Like I can't fit none of my winter stuff. Or I just wore this yesterday. I can't wear this again tomorrow. And so, you have that kind of anxiety. You have anxiety like, is my hair right? Or, your boss calls you into the office for something, and so you get anxious about that. So, but people who are diagnosed with anxiety, it's to the point where they can't function and they can't do what they need to do because they're anxious, to the point where they're just frozen and they can't do anything. Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. This is one of my favorites. I had a client, and she had OCD. And the pharmacy would call me because she would go to Giant Eagle with a big shopping bag full of all of her medication, and she'd be there for hours wanting the pharmacist to count every pill and recount it with her, turning water on and off, locking the door. When I'd go to visit her, she'd lock the door. She'd just lock, open, lock, open, lock, open. And it was a process because it was like I got to do it 25 times. She couldn't do it 20. She couldn't do it 19. She couldn't do it 24. She had to do it 25 times. So can you imagine your life? You're trying to go through life, and before you can even get out of the house, you've turned the light off and on 50 times. It's time for you to lock the door. You've locked the door and unlocked the door 100 times. You've did the same thing with your car. You've opened and shut the door. Do you think that that person ever got anything done in a day's time? The things that she needed to do, that's what she got to do. Turning the water on and off, locking the door. And so finally she'll give up and go in. And she would have stayed at that pharmacy counting those pills all day had not the pharmacist called me because he couldn't get her to go. So I had to go get her, and get her to go home. Bipolar disorder. I work with a lot of women who are drug dependent, and so I deal with pregnant women who are in jail, who are in treatment centers, who are homeless, who are in shelters, and some have been fortunate enough to finally get their own homes. But bipolar disorder is a disorder where a person has usually depression and a chemical imbalance, a drug dependence. And unfortunately, these women, they also have unresolved mental health issues and trauma. And so because it never gets addressed, because that drug problems overshadows everything else, that's all that they know, because they've continued to use the drugs to just be okay. What they're not able to reconcile with is that that baby that they're carrying is going to be born addicted as well. And that usually is what happens. And the babies stay in the hospital and they're detoxed, and so they don't understand that that baby is an addict and it's just been born. And so the behaviors that come from that, because we're not paying any attention as moms, and it's the same thing that happens in the schools say, oh, John, he's just unruly. He won't sit down, he won't behave, he won't pay attention, he's just running and he's all over the place. Well, there's not a lot of studies that go on about African Americans and the effects of drugs and whether or not the person is, so if you have somebody that's addicted to heroin, a lot of times because their addiction is so high, they'll be given another drug which is supposed to prevent them from using that drug of choice. So you get some Subutex or Suboxone or some methadone, and so that's supposed to help them, but at the same time, everything that mom is taking, the baby is taking. And so when the baby is born addicted, and the baby has to stay in the hospital sometimes for 2 months, could be 3 weeks to 2 months, while it detoxes and gets the drugs out of the baby's system. However, once the baby goes home, he still goes through those changes of wanting something and not really realizing what it is. But because there's no studies about that, and I have the doctors tell my participants all the time that, they'll be fine. And so as the African American community, I think from way gone back, we're just been erased that, whatever the doctor tells us, that's the bottom line. It is what it is. The doctor says I should do this. The doctor says if I take this, everything will be okay. The doctor says if I take this, everything will be okay and nothing's going to happen to my baby. And so we live on that and we believe in that, and we don't do our due diligence to, this 2021, so although a lot of people, we tell people not to, you can't be your own doctor, stay off of Google, don't be Googling stuff and trying to figure out what you have, but you can educate yourself so that you can ask the right questions, and so you can get better answers than just the doctor telling you what's okay. Because most of the time we'll just go to the doctor and sit there and we'll listen and we'll say okay, and we'll leave out of there with our prescriptions and okay, we're good, when we're not. So schizophrenia, I'm really not going to go into these because that's really for a whole nother session, really. But one of the things that happens in the African American community, and I remember this when I was growing up, everybody had a pookie in the neighborhood. And so, oh, that's just Pookie, he just crazy. That's just Pookie, he just crazy like that. And so a lot of times, like even with kids who had developmental delays, it was years before we realized that it was women who were drinking a lot of alcohol. So the fetal alcohol syndrome is why a lot of kids ended up being developmentally delayed, including maybe a lot of even medications that people were taking. I think most people, we don't realize that, just because the doctor says, here's a prescription for you. And a good example of that I can give is most African Americans have high blood pressure. And so a doctor may have a certain pharmacy that they utilize and a certain go-to medication that they give to everybody for high blood pressure. Well, there's a high blood pressure medicine that's not good for African Americans. And we have all kinds of terrible side effects. And sometimes it's very severe where your lips swell up. I mean, if you're taking it, you'll know right away that it's not a medication that is for you. So there's that. And then I wanted to talk about the top. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm a little bit unorganized here. Major depression, again, is one of the big mental health illnesses in the Black community. And so a lot of people who are very successful in life that we look at on TV every day and we don't know. And actually, I'll give somebody that just recently had a huge meltdown, Naomi Osaka. She's a huge tennis player, very good tennis player. However, she has been suffering from depression for about 2 years. So she had a complete meltdown. But it was really amazing how the other community attacked her. And we all were like, okay, she can be depressed. But other people were like, well, either be depressed or play tennis. What is it going to be? One day you're depressed, the next day you're giving an interview. So we've had this thing where everybody is okay with having a mental health disorder, but when a Black person says something is wrong, that's a no-no. That's a no-no. No, you can't have a mental health disorder and still have a job. Or you can't have a mental health disorder and still raise your children. You just can't do that. But the other people, they can go through all kinds of stuff, and there's all kinds of help for them. And so I think in the African American community, we've been taught over time to not identify or be in a place where we're willing to acknowledge and have that look at us that helps us to determine what happened to us. We've all been in that place where it's like, okay, well, I can't let anybody know. And I think what happens is, with most people, and a good example is when you see somebody and you say, hey, how you doing? Are you really prepared to hear what they have to say? Are you really prepared? You're like, hey, how you doing? And they say, what if they say, well, I'm not doing too good? Are you really ready to sit down and have that conversation to find out what's wrong? Like, do you really care? Or is it just one of those things where, hey, how you doing? I'm good, how you? And you say I'm good and you keep on going. And because it is that way, that person probably feels like, she really don't care how I'm doing. It's just a formality. She really don't want to hear what I got to say. And so we go on and we suffer in silence. And I'm sure that every day, even at your job, you may see somebody and you'll be like, oh, she's getting on my nerves, or he's getting on my nerves. He always tripping about something. But we are all going through life, and life is happening to us, and things are happening to us. We're not wearing signs that says, hey, I'm traumatized. You know, I saw my mom die. Oh, I saw the kid across the street get shot. Or I saw my father beat up my mom. Or I got really, really sick and nobody came to see me. Nobody's ready to have those conversations. And so we don't know what's going on in somebody else's life, just like they don't know what's going on in ours. So instead of judging, sometimes we just need to stop and think and say to ourselves, you know what? I know what I'm going through. And I don't know what Jane is going through. But what I'm going through is not really that big of a deal, but it's stressful on me. And so I'm not going to judge somebody because they didn't say good morning to me the way that I thought they should have said good morning. Or when I said something to them, they were very dry in their response back to me. That dryness is just, hey, I'm doing the best I can to get through this day because I got to come to work. I don't have no more sick time. I don't have no more vacation time. And so you're going through the motions. A lot of people don't know, though, that most jobs have what you call, pardon me? Yeah, well, no, not FMLA. That's not what I'm talking about. EAP, Ease at Work. So it's very private. And so nobody has to know, not even your job, when you call and you utilize it for whatever may be going on with you. You know, you actually have these free things that they give to you. So, you know, maybe you just need some exercise or something to clear your mind, and that's all you need. And so you're able to do that. Maybe you need a therapist because you just have some things you need to talk about, and it's not really that you have any kind of mental health disorder that you're going to have a diagnosis for. And so people don't know that you have ease at work, and it may be just the thing because you haven't talked to your employer also about what's going on with you, because people are not trusting. You know, you trust, you say things, and the next thing you know, the whole office knows about what's going on in your life, and so you suffer in silence, and you don't say anything about what you're dealing with because you can't trust that they're going to keep your confidence and not say anything. But when you go through Ease at Work, you get the help that you need, and where you might have been dragging, your work might have been suffering, you might have been every day you're just coming in late because it's just like, oh my God, I gotta go to work. I really don't want to go in here, but I gotta go. And so you finally muster up the courage to get there, get dressed, and you get there, and then your work is suffering, but something still needs to happen. So that's the way you go about to keep from losing your job. And most African Americans, they say, well, I ain't crazy. You know, ain't nothing wrong with me. I don't need no medication. You know, and I tell people all the time, there's a psychiatrist. Psychiatrists, they do diagnose and they do write prescriptions for medications, for psychotropic medications. Psychologists, they do the same thing, but they don't have the power to write prescriptions. And so they very well may never even suggest that you go to see a psychiatrist and, oh, you need to get some medication to deal with your depression. Then you have your therapist. Then you have little old people like me who are just regular licensed social worker, mental health counselors. And Whereas we do diagnosis under the care of a psychiatrist or a psychologist, we don't, well, I will say I don't subscribe to a pill fixing everything for everybody. And I tell my clients that all the time. I tell them to ask questions. Over the years, my clients who have not been able to do those things for themselves, I always go to the doctor with them. I always go to the doctor with them so that I can help them talk about, explain, and identify what's going on with them. Most people who get prescribed psychotropic meds don't know that it takes 30 days for that medication to get in your body before you might see a change. But it's also the same time, it takes that amount of time to know if there's a problem. So what do? And that's what's wrong in the African American community, because we don't know, and we've been so trusting and ready for the doctors to just, well, give me a pill, fix me, give me a prescription. How's this going to help me? And so a lot of my clients who were severely mentally disordered, they realized that they really didn't, hey, Miss Pam, I don't like the way them pills make me feel. I'm just going to drink. You know, so there's a huge tug of war in that sense. So then you have to go to the doctor with your client and help them to explain to that psychiatrist, well, when you prescribed this to me, this is what it did. You're your own best doctor, so to speak, because you know your body better than anybody else does. And so you need to be able to communicate that, whether or not you got the flu, whether or not you think you have COVID. I mean, when you go to the doctor, don't they ask you a series of questions? They take your blood pressure, they listen to your breathing, and then they ask you what's going on, what's wrong. And so if you're not able to communicate that to them, you know, last year COVID started, and I kept having these instances where I couldn't breathe. And I was just like, and so my granddaughter was like, Nana, you're on the phone, you're wheezing. You need to go to the doctor. And so when I got to the ER, I said to them, hey, I don't have a fever. I've been eating up everything. I haven't lost my appetite, but I'm having trouble breathing. So it took many trips to the doctor, utilizing some other different things to deal with the congestion in my lungs, and finally even having video chats with my doctor, which I'm saying, okay, well, he can't listen to my breathing, he can't listen to anything that's going on with me. How can he help me right now? So I finally referred myself to a pulmonologist. Come to find out I have asthma. And I used to work with hoarders, and if anybody has seen the TV show Hoarders, I was actually in situations where in homes just like that, dust, cat dander, all kinds of stuff. And over time, I had pneumonia, and then after that, I continued to have problems and issues with my breathing. I'm doing fine now that I know I have asthma. And so I try to stay away from certain things and make sure I clean up really good, not have dust around, stuff like that. But one of the big things that we have to do as African Americans is pay attention to our children, which is something that we really don't do. We really don't think about the neighborhoods we live in because we're just trying to survive. And so the neighborhood you live in, the kids get used to hearing guns all the time. So when we look at our teenagers and they're out here and they're grabbing guns and they're being so violent, they see violence every day. They see violence every day, but instead of getting to the root of the problem And then they get to school and they're just out of control. So there's this anger and this fear that's going on, but there's also something else that has gone on from when they were born. But nobody addressed it, not even their parents, because we've all been told, just get over it. But you can't just get over stuff. It manifests itself and it turns into something bigger and uglier, and sometimes it gets to the point where it even becomes deadly. I even believe that's why a lot of our young people, they don't have an expectation of living past 13, 14, 15, 16. You know, they don't see a future for themselves. They're just out here living. They're not even able to think past that 1 second. So they get a gun, they say, oh, okay, I can't get any money, I can't get any shoes, I can't get any whatever, I'm gonna go take it. But they can't think past of that consequence of what's gonna happen when that happens. Because their brain can't help them to think that far. All they wanna do is what's the here and the now. And they watch these TV programs. And sometimes, and do I really believe that TV, video games, and those sorts of things causes children to act in a certain manner? As a whole, I will say no. But an idle mind that's left to, if that's all they've been put in front of a TV or given a game, in their mind set, that's their life. And so then when they leave out of that house, they're going to reenact everything that they saw. And even in those movies and TV programs, you know, they see the person the next time on another movie. So they don't realize that when that gun gets pulled and that trigger gets pulled, that's final. You're not going to get back up and see Johnny tomorrow. It's not going to happen. And the totality of what they've done doesn't hit them until they're standing in front of a judge and they got to go to jail for 15 to life or whatever. And so parents, we got to get back to being parents. So what does that mean? I'm not saying, oh, you got to start diagnosing your kids from babies, but you have to start realizing when certain behaviors are not well. I'm a big proponent of behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and reality therapy. And for children, play and art therapy. So there are things that can happen if you start out early enough. There are things that can be done. You just have to know the right course to take. And all schools have school psychologists. The thing that I most paused about is mental health agencies in the communities. There's been, I would say over the past 15, 20 years, anytime you take your kid to one of those agencies, I guarantee you that they're going to be given a diagnosis. They're going to be given a diagnosis that's going to follow them for the rest of their lives. And the problem with that is it's always about money. So it's not like they have a few sessions to figure out the family history, a session with the parents, you know, and getting that history, the psychosocial history, to talk to the kid more than one time, to get their school records. All this stuff happens in a period of one appointment and one afternoon. And you can't tell me that that identifies what's really going on with that child. And so now they have a label. And so the thing that they sell to our parents is, well, they can get Social Security. But it's also all about billing. So if I give you a diagnosis and I get you to keep coming to me, then I got a bill for that. And it doesn't matter that whether or not I'm doing anything and you see any progress, I got a bill for that. And so you're pushed as a worker, you got to get them billable hours in. But that's not what this is all about. It's about recognizing and understanding what mental health is. I would suggest that everybody here that's in this program, there's a course called First Aid Mental Health. And it helps you to identify when your friends, family, and it's not about diagnosing, it's about having those conversations that help you to guide them to seek and to get some help. So I know I probably was all over the place today. I'm a little bit out of practice with this, but I hope what I had to say was informational and it gave you some things to think about, and that it will help you moving forward in deciding how you're going to address any situation that may be going on within your family or in your community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamela Bell, for that presentation. And now we're going to have Donna Marie Randolph, a mental health advocate, come and speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donna Marie. I'm going to make this concise, and I'm going to break it down into basically 3 little sections. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, the organization that I'm currently and have been involved with, share a video about that organization, and then give you some principles about recovery. As I said, I'm Donna Marie, wife, mother, grandmother, all that fun stuff. But I started my recovery journey 15 years ago. I was working as a teacher, and I loved my job, but suddenly it became very difficult. I became confused. Things that I enjoyed, I struggled with doing. I tried to reach out to my colleagues and peers, and I really wasn't getting a lot of understanding or support. And honestly, I kind of just completely went flat, lost it all. Ended up in the hospital, multiple suicide attempts, because nobody understood me. Nobody could relate to me. There was something wrong with me. I obviously wasn't praying enough. Jesus was pissed at me. Something was going on. But that really wasn't it. But because I wasn't getting the support that I would have liked to have received, that now looking back forward 15 years, would have been very healthy for me. It was more about getting support from my colleagues, from my family, about just looking at what was going on. So one of those wonderful journeys in the hospital, I was told I had to go to these meetings. In order to go home, you had to participate in these meetings. I was a very angry and frustrated person because I had spent most of my time advocating for people, helping the young children that I was working with learn what was going on in their lives because they were living in stressful situations. So trying to keep a timer, guys, so bear with me. Okay, I'm good. Those same resources that I had sent my family to, those families weren't working for me. So that just put another dose on my frustration because, hey, I sent you to this mess? What was I thinking? So there was another layer of guilt on there. At this meeting, there was these people who were faking like they were happy. That was just my mindset then. Everybody was faking, nobody was happy. Everybody was just ugly and evil like me. But they actually gave a really great presentation about this place called Clubhouse. And I was like, I don't want a clubhouse. I want to get better. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, but I had to be at this stupid meeting, so they let me go home. And I also just found it incredible that these people were happy. Nobody said happy. So I was going to prove them wrong. They said, come at 10. We'll show you around. It's wonderful. You'll love it. No, you'll be prepared for me at 10. I'm going to come at 1, and then I'm gonna catch you, because I know you're faking. Nobody's that happy. So I strolled in there at 1. They were happy to see me. And that was amazing. So I kind of still was a little leery, but the fact that they looked at me as an individual and spoke to me as a person made me stop, because none of the places that I had dealt with before looked at me, Donna Marie. Nobody acknowledged. I was undiagnosed, I was diagnosed, I was triple diagnosed. I could go down to DSM-5 several times with what things they wanted to come up with and the cocktails that they tried to feed me. But here I was treated like a person. And so began my recovery journey with Magnolia Clubhouse. Over the years, it was an awesome support. It helped me keep my children, eventually get my marriage back, helped me keep my home. And it got to the point where I was able to give back. And so I became an advocate for Magnolia Clubhouse. I then became a board member. Then I am currently a board member and also part of the executive board. I finally, I guess, and I don't think it's the last leg, but it's another step in that journey. I became a faculty member for Clubhouse International, which is the international umbrella for clubhouses worldwide. And what I do is I work as a consultant. And I go across the country and wherever they send me to make sure the clubhouses that are calling themselves clubhouses are following the philosophy, which is basically treating people with respect as individuals and helping them to fulfill their goals. Everybody's goal is not the same. And everybody is not the same. And that's what I really loved about the whole Clubhouse experience. So I'm still ahead of time. We're going to hit this video, and then I'm going to just share a few principles of recovery, and then I'll turn it back over to you.
Welcome to the hospitality unit. Let me show you around. This is the front desk. This is where you're going to sign in. You're going to pay your dollar dues every morning. You can also buy a bus ticket for $1. We have all-day tickets and paratransit tickets. Let's go this way. Where are you going? And here is our dining room. This is where we'll eat lunch every day. Every once in a while, we'll have some activities in here as well. So sometimes we'll have yoga. Sometimes we'll have a WHAM meeting, which is a health and wellness program. And yeah, so let's go over to the cafe. This is our cafe. We sell a variety of healthy snacks. We sell some water, some juices, some sodas, some nuts, and some granola bars. We also sell some frozen sandwiches. And so if you're ever hungry and want a snack, this is the place to come. Going through here, this is our dishwasher washing area. So the unit is ran by primarily members. So when we have more dishes, you'll see more members in here right now running and making sure everything's clean. But as you see throughout the day, throughout the tour, you'll see members working the front desk, the cafe, and in the kitchen cooking our meal today. Let's go take a look at the kitchen. This is where all the magic happens. Over here we have Greg cooking some pasta today for our Alfredo. We have Mario getting some noodles ready for our pasta. Over here we'll see our some members cutting some vegetables for some salads and roasting some vegetables for our pasta today. We're making a chicken or a vegetable Alfredo.
My name is Michelle, and I'm a member of Magnolia Clubhouse. I enjoy coming to the Clubhouse because it gives me a sense of purpose, and it keeps me busy. I enjoy the hospitality unit because I get to check everybody and see everybody's smiling face each morning.
Hello everyone, welcome to the membership unit. I'm Kevin, I'm one of the staff up here. On membership unit, we do tours and orientation regularly. We do enrollment, treatment plans. In addition to that, we also support members in going back to work and going back to school. And we have a few members here working side by side to get through the day. Our tasks for today include organizing and cleaning, data entry, and any special projects that we have going on today. And that's all.
Hello everyone, I'm Willie Boyd. We're up in the communications unit, and what we're doing, we're producing something we call News at One. We do different segments such as unit reports, health topics, things that's helpful, artistic ideals, as well as things that the mental health community think is good for each other. Well, come on with us now. We go in the soundproof room. Don't this look like Channel 3? All right, well, we're in here, we're in the green screen room, and this is where we record our news. Me, Willie Boyd, I love coming to the Clubhouse because I'm a technology guy. I love photography, I love videography, and I also love the fact that I can edit videos and I can become a lot better in my skills of making videos for the Clubhouse. Also things is I love to make friends. We work together and we are able to come together and come up with very creative ideas.
I'm Renee, a Clubhouse member. Welcome to Magnolia Clubhouse Shop, where we receive donations from various members of the community to support the functions of Magnolia Clubhouse. I love working at Magnolia Clubhouse Shop. It prepares me for transitional employment, for skills like customer service, retail, working at the cash register. It also boosts my self-esteem and gives me a sense of integrity.
Hi, I'm Jen. Welcome to the administration unit. As you can see, we're really busy here putting together a mailing for an upcoming health and wellness event that we're having in October. It's one of the many things that we do here on the administration unit. Follow me and I'll show you more. In here, we have members working side by side doing our Medicaid billing. It's something that we do every day, and it's really important. Along with this, we also do a lot of other data entry. We do a lot of demographics and reporting for our funders, and we also do marketing and development. There's also work in our finance department as well. We also have a health and wellness group called WHAM, which is held every week, and where we talk about different health goals, and we learn a lot of different skills for that.
My name is Aaron, and I'm a member of the Clubhouse, and I work in an administration unit. I enjoy being a part of the Clubhouse here. It's helped me within my daily routine of being here each day. I come Monday through Fridays, and it keeps me active and gives me something to do each day as I work within the Clubhouse. One of the things I do within the administration unit, I keep track of attendance. We're able to bill within Medicaid for the members that come each day, and then also we're able to keep track of membership. So when the members come, we do reach out phone calls within the units, and everything is important within the attendance.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm the nurse practitioner here at the Magnolia Clubhouse Carriage House Clinic. We're located right behind the main clubhouse, and we're open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 3. We have a full medical office with a complete exam room and a complete laboratory. We do basic primary care here, emergency visits, lab draws, Clozarils, and Depakote levels. We are really pushing forward to monitor metabolic syndrome here at the Carriage House Clinic for many of our members who receive psychoactive medications to monitor high cholesterol, diabetes, and weight gain. It's a really cool little clinic. As you come over here, you'll see my office. I meet everyone here. You don't need an appointment to come here to the Carriage House Clinic. Just walk in. Okay, we're here Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So Magnolia Clubhouse is a member-led organization. The video was produced and created by the members. It's very empowering when you're in recovery and pretty much the bottom's wiped out and you can't think you do anything, but you're working with a group of people that believe in you and acknowledge and support you in trying and doing things. So it is a wonderful organization for those of you who know people or you yourself are looking for something. I would definitely encourage you just to go and give them a visit. What I loved about it is I didn't need insurance. You go in there and give them $1 for lunch, and you're entitled to all the activities of the day. It's really called $1 for membership because it's nonprofit. We're not supposed to charge for lunch. So let me clean that up in case we got any regulatory people here. So I'm going to wrap this up, hopefully with us feeling a little bit of positive, because we got a lot of information. And it was excellent information. I'm very pleased and thankful to privilege to be with these wonderful people speaking. Recovery emerges from hope. The belief that recovery is real provides the essential and motivating message of a better future, that people can and do overcome the internal and external challenges, barriers, and obstacles that confront them. Recovery is person-driven. Self-determination and self-direction are the foundation for recovery as individuals define their own life goals and design their unique paths. Recovery occurs via many pathways. Individuals are unique with distinct needs, strengths, preferences, goals, culture, and backgrounds, including trauma experiences that affect the pathway to recovery. Recovery is holistic. Recovery encompasses an individual's whole life, including mind, body, spirit, and community. The array of services and supports available should be integrated and coordinated. Recovery is supported by peers and allies, mutual support and mutual aid groups, including the sharing of experiential knowledge and skills, as well as social learning, play an invaluable role in recovery. Recovery is supported through relationship and social networks. An important factor in the recovery process is the presence and involvement of people who believe in a person's ability to recover, who offer hope, support, and encouragement, and who also suggest strategies and resources for change. Recovery is culturally based and influenced. Culture and cultural background in all of its diverse representations, including values, traditions, and beliefs, which are key in determining a person's journey and a unique pathway of recovery. Recovery is supported by addressing trauma. Services and support should be trauma-informed to foster safety, physical and emotional, and trust, as well as promote choice, empowerment, and collaboration. Recovery involves individual, family, and community strengths and responsibilities. Individuals, families, and communities have strengths and resources that serve as a foundation for recovery. Recovery is based on respect. Community systems and social acceptance and appreciation for people affected by mental health and substance use problems, including protecting their rights and eliminating discrimination, are crucial in achieving recovery. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna Marie Randolph, for sharing your journey and letting us know about Clubhouse. And now I want to introduce to you Bishop Tony Minor, who is the manager of faith-based outreach at Metro Health. He's also trained pastors on trauma-informed care. Bishop Minor?
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Have been here so many times. It's just always good to be here. I just want to talk a little bit about what we do at the hospital with the faith community and ways that you that are here in the sanctuary or viewing could possibly aid in helping individuals who are dealing with a host of emotional issues. So at the hospital, we believe that healing occurs beyond the buildings at Metro Health, that certainly healing begins in the building, but they actually continue or in the community. So it's so very important to work with the community to build programs and activities to support people in the healing process. And that's important also as we think about trauma and trauma-informed care and helping people who are addressing a host of issues around stress, toxic stress, anxiety, etc. So one of the things that we've been doing is working with congregations, of which this congregation here has been a part of that, where we have been establishing comfort care teams. And that consists of persons who have been trained in trauma-informed care, resiliency, and have made a decision that they want to be a caring caregiver or a support person, right? Helping people in their recovery or helping people in their resiliency journey. In some ways, these comfort care ambassadors actually are resiliency champions. And with all of the suffering and the pain that we hear and that we see, actually many of our communities are resilient communities. The ability to bounce back, the ability to fight back, the ability to work through a host of different issues. A lot of that is embedded in the heart of the community. And these are everyday people who do small things to support people. And so we know that trauma can be defined in so many ways, but that's that emotional and physical impact of pain. And it's both physical, like you have trauma centers that deal with the physical aspect of pain, and then there's the emotional part of it. And so it's the aftermath of a traumatic experience is what paralyzes us, is that residual impact. Many of us face all kinds of traumas every day. There's community trauma dealing with poverty, unemployment, blight, right? Then there's toxic stress, there's anxiety, there's shock, there's harm. So we live in that space each and every day. One of the things that one of our key psychologists at the hospital would tell us, and that is Dr. Ramirez, is that the most important thing in dealing with people who have been impacted by trauma, and all of us have, impacted by toxic stress, and many of us have, and anxiety, is that they need caring, thoughtful people who are just simply tapping them on the shoulder and saying, I care. Caring people who just want to listen, to be there. And that's what care ambassadors do. And that's the importance of just having somebody to just be there, a simple phone call. One of the spin-offs of the Comfort Care program has been our grief support work, in which we have been training care ambassadors, lay people, non-professional people, to be grief support people. Not taking them through a process or counseling, and most people really don't need that. but just a tap on the shoulder, a phone call, a check-in, asking how you doing, just being there for them, allowing them to be. There's so much confusion around grief and grief recovery. People teach. Unfortunately, people try to teach stages, and we all know there are no stages to grief, and we force people to be in a box and shock, recoil, all of that. We just are in the midst of our grief, and people grieve in their own way. But it's always good to just have a caring person. And as the faith community, and let me end with this, and there are some individuals here who've been part of the comfort care team here. You know, there's a scripture in the book of Psalms, Psalm 23, which is so important to resiliency and healing, you know, but we make it otherworldly in this statement where it says, yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. What does it say next? Thou art with me. Now here is the question. Who is the thou? Does it have to be God only? Or could it be you and I? Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow. See, the shadow, that's what trauma is, right? In the midst of the shadow of death. It's like I'm not in it, but it's the impact of it, right? Yea, do I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I fear no evil, for thou art with me. I want to end with this story, and you know, there's a story, a preacher's tale, you know, of a young boy who went to church with his mother, and it was a fabulous church, fabulous service, great music, great singing, people were clapping, great preaching, people were standing up saying, Pastor, I'm with you, just a lot of emotion. And so when the young boy walked back to the car, he pulled on his mother's jacket, and he asked this question: what are they going to do now? And that's a very important question for all of us as we attend these workshops and attend all kinds of informational sessions, and we're so inspired. What are we going to do now? So one simple thing that we've been offering at the hospital is Project Thrive and the Healing Circle, and just a simple framework for everyday people to reach out and touch. You know, just think if the Healing Circle here and the Healing Circle at my church, Community of Faith, if we partnered with the Magnolia House, with our care ambassadors, to do nothing else but to get approval to just every once in a while pick up the phone and just say, hello, how are you? To make somebody's day. Do you ever get just a delightful call from someone? Just saying hello. You know, one of the things I do, pastors get 3 times the end, right? So I said one twice. This is my third one, right? So one of the things I do every once in a while, and I shock people, I haven't done it to you yet, doctor, but sometimes I'll just pick up the phone and just say hello, because when I call, it's like trauma. Because they know that when I'm calling, I want something, right? And so sometimes I just pick up the phone and it shocks them like I don't know what. Oh, I ain't calling about nothing. I just called to simply say hello, to say, how are you doing? And don't we know that when people do that to us, that it makes our day? And so I think we can walk with people in their recovery, walk with people in their trauma, and surely walk with people as they are facing the shadow of death. Thank you very much.
I just want to take the opportunity again to thank each and every presenter that came out today. So when I was trying to put this program together, I had it actually scheduled for an earlier date, but it fell upon this date for a reason, because next week, as you guys, a lot of people know, is the beginning of Thanksgiving, the holiday season. And some of us will be hearing these songs. It's the most wonderful time of the year. It is for some people, but for others it's not. You're going to be singing, hearing songs about, family gatherings and things like that. So, it kind of like, played an important part on having this information brought to you all and to you all that's watching. And I hope you gained some information from it. It might not be for you. You might be good. You might be fine. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Mental health can be good, right? It doesn't always have to be. So there are some people who are in a good place, but there are others who aren't. And what we wanted to do tonight was just equip you all that's listening with something that you can give to somebody who's not doing okay. So I need to thank my team of people, that help with this, because what you don't know, a lot of them, some of them are planning to go out of town real soon. But when I asked them, they said okay. Some are working round the clock, and when I asked them, they said okay. Others have stories to tell, and they said okay. Others are coming from meetings, going all over the town, coming here, and they said that they would do it. So I really, really appreciate it. I need to introduce my team, my Towards a Better Path team, to come up here with me as we present just a small token of appreciation to those of you who took the time out to present this knowledge. And my Towards a Better Path people, my team, my organization, you can't do anything by yourself. You always have people to help and support you. And these are my supporters, along with our other team member, Beverly Leverett, who's watching. She's out of town and she's watching with us. So these are my team members. You want to introduce yourselves, please?
My name is Teresa Nickens.
I'm Patsy Harris.
So what we like to do is just, again, a small token of appreciation. Dr. Pam. Pamela Bell. Donna Marie. And our Bishop Minor. And that concludes our program. I tell everybody, I value time. I really do. And my goal is to start on time, which I think I was a little bit late, but we're gonna let you out a little bit early, unless we have any questions or any wrap-ups, or anything that anybody would like to say. Oh, yes.
I would just like to share something with you. When Tracy told me about this, I had just watched a movie. I'm terrible on names, but it was a movie about mental health. The person had bipolar and schizophrenia. And it was the same day that she had called me, and it was about black people. And they said 7.5 million black people are suffering with some mental illness, and majority of it is not addressed. So this is a much-needed topic, and you can see by attendance, we can't embrace it. It's very hard for us, so we need to get the word out. And then the next day, after she said it, there's a young black man, and he started coffee recovery or something, because he said he actually had a breakdown in a coffee shop. This is a much-needed subject that we need to be very diligent in getting the word out that our people really need help. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your information.
Anybody else? So, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just met her, and I was just kind of, making sure she's okay, and being comfortable and stuff like that. So the buzzer went off. I went to the room, and the family was there. The entire family was there. And the daughter said to me, something is wrong with mom. Can you just check and make sure she's okay? She's not waking up and stuff like that. She was, sleeping. I've been checking on her all day. She's breathing, she's sleeping. They just wanted her to rest. And hold and below that when I went in there and I look at the resident, she was actually gone. She's expired. The daughter was just talking to her, but I couldn't tell her that. So I called for the nurses and whatever. But right there and then, I knew that my comfort care training kicked in. And I had to make sure that family, was okay. And I had to, pray with them, console them what was going on. So it's always good to be there for people because you never know. I was just doing what I know to do. And in comforting them, later on that day, the family came to me and said, you have no idea how, what I did with them, let them feel so, so cared for and they said I went above and beyond. I didn't know I was doing anything, but I just wanted to be there for the family. And they just came. They came the day before, and the parent died the next day. But just being there for them, like that sister was saying, it's priceless. It's priceless. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you, and that is so important. Sometimes you just really don't know what to say. But hopefully sessions like this will empower us and give us the ammunition that we need so that we will know what to say. It's okay when you can tell someone that you're not okay. And us on the receiving end, we have to be able to say, yeah, okay, it's okay if you're not be okay. Not, let me pray for you, or let's do this, let's do that. So again, this is the first, but certainly not the last, because my goal is every month to bring something different that will help us, empower us, because I learned a lot. Just in the meetings that we had amongst ourselves, the training that I've been on with Bishop Minor, it's just awesome work that they're doing as well. So the goal is to continue this and to continue to get the information out there, and let's face it, so we can heal it. So consider yourselves dismissed. I thank each and every one of you for coming out, and that concludes our program. Thank you. Sure. Make sure they know we have a bag. Oh, sure. Okay, so we have a goodie bag for you all as you exit out to go. We have something, just a little something to give to you all. Thank you.